We're out on the range again today, looking at the next move. We're getting ready to move out of this pasture. We've been in here since Monday morning. Today's Friday morning. There's 200 and some head in here. Cow-calf pairs, smaller frame cows with Mayborn calves on them. But in this piece here is going to be 75 to 100 acres, I think. You can see if we get down here, the mature grass, this western wheat, has greened up since we've gotten some rain, and it's matted down. There's not a lot of grazing that's happened here. It's mostly been trampled. A lot of the grazing is happening on some of these sunflowers, and then this is just a place for them to travel. I really am not seeing a lot of grass that has bites on it. There might be a little bit here. This is some Kentucky bluegrass. Really not a lot of quality there. And then this is a ground cherry plant that's been chewed on. I don't know if the calves are chewing on it or what has decided that they needed that in their diet, but they chewed on that some. We'll go up the hill here into some burnt trees. Maybe we can find some more. And then the manure paths. This one's telling us that we're real high in protein. This one is a little better. I like this one a little better. I do wish that we had more dung beetles. We just got off of rain, so any bug activity is going to be pretty suppressed. Here is another one. It's padded up still, so we're kind of balanced energy and protein out here, and I kind of like how our dispersal is here. We got a decent spread of fertilizer. We're up a little further still, and this is some Kentucky bluegrass, and I'm no grass identifier. So they've chewed on some of this other stuff too, right next to the Kentucky bluegrass, and it looks like tall drop seed, but I could be wrong. One of you guys can probably tell me what this is. This is kind of a low quality grass here, but they chose to graze on it some. We'll move up a little higher. We're getting into our big blue stem. They've eaten around the leafy plant material, and they've stayed away from the stems, and they have still trampled a whole bunch of it. You can see all this plant material that's almost 2 foot is trampled over, and that's kind of our goal here. If you think we wasted forage, that's all right. That's kind of what our goal was in utilizing this. Is it bought us some days to rest other pastures since we've been dry, and it allowed us to push this plant material down and cover the soil. And then the other, I didn't think about this, but if you look at where we're at, we're right along the old tree line, and this is fairly steep, whether you can tell in the video or not. That is mostly shading this portion of the bottom of the hill, and the Kentucky bluegrass likes that it starts to fill in where the moisture or the soil depth is more shallow, and the trees are stealing moisture from the grass, and the trees are stealing sunlight from the grass. So the grazing the Kentucky bluegrass and then allowing other cool seasons, even if it's a recovery cool season like cheatgrass, allowing that to move in, the side oats and the western wheat and stuff is going to definitely be strong here. But getting that grazing pressure is going to continue to help that shift in composition here and allow us more diversity, where that sod forming Kentucky bluegrass is going to start blanketing if we allow this situation where we have all this shading and trees robbing moisture from the soil. So yeah, as we've moved up, we're getting more grazing here, more bare soil, just because of the location where, again, the trees were shading and robbing moisture and sunlight. So, and you can see in this situation, this old tall drop seed plant really didn't get grazed much. Being that there's not much leafy vegetation, I would call this kind of an unhealthy plant, and they grazed around it, and they grazed the Kentucky bluegrass around it. You also see some biochar, if you want to call it that, here, and then some charred needles. A lot of the needles have been washed away. Some people think that's bad. I think that's a good thing, because the needles will hinder grass growth. So the fact that we have charred needles that remain is good, and the fact that we have bare soil being, starting to be covered by plant material, that's good too. Moving further up the hill, we're seeing a lot more bare soil, a lot more big blue or Kentucky bluegrass, and we're right underneath an old tree, a very large old tree. This one was big enough that they couldn't actually cut the base. They cut the top out of it and used it. There's some logs over here of trees that were cut and stuffed here as best they could. There's a tree that's stuffed right there to help gain ladder fuel. So these lower quality, most people call weeds, have been grazed here. There's been some hoof action up here, some good trampling that is going to give a little place for water to hold on the hill and start a seed growing immediately. This is the year of the fire, and we're a lot of weeds, some mullein weed up here, some pollinator habitat, the verbena and western ironweed. I actually prefer this mullein weed over the bull thistle and musk thistle that's going to come in here. All of it will even out eventually. But we also have the Kentucky bluegrass and some other weedy grass species coming in, and some sedge coming in here also. And man, cows love sedge in the spring, and in this case on this hillside this fall too. So you could, you know, grazing up here, there's some good and bad in doing that this time of year. Could you, and we just had over 2 inches of rain 2 weeks ago and this week. So I'm feeling pretty good about our decision to come in here and graze a little bit. But you can make an argument and say, well, you should have stayed off those cool seasons until later, or stayed off the hills, or whatever. But yeah, and we're up on the slopes here. Cows are, these tracks are going up and down this hill to where these cows have gotten in these trees because they can see to move around, and there's space in between the branches where they can go, and now there's decent amount of forage up here. It's worth going and getting. So that's what it looks like after the burn in this situation, both up the hill and down in the lower portion.